Nigeria. People talk about restructuring. It's more than that. Nigeria, you must give Nigerians a hope in the future. Okay? Young as these people are, the future belongs to them. So they must have learned lessons from the debacle of 2019. This will force them together to create a new vision. Because you need visionary people, okay, who will galvanize the various elements in society towards creating a new Nigeria. Look at education. What has happened to education in Nigeria? Health. You find people on TV begging for donations, either they have a kidney problem, or every time I see that, I'm assailed as a Nigerian that we can't take care of the health of our people. We have to beg for donations from the plutocrats, the money bags, to dip in something, either to do some operation in China or India, or more often than not India. That bespeaks a country that cannot care for the preponderant majority of its people. So you look at basic needs, I'm sure the younger people who are now old enough to run, they have been old enough to run 4 years from now, they will learn from what has transpired. And I'm saying if they come together, they can actually galvanize, you know, the elements in Nigeria to create a new Nigeria. That is the pitch I'm making.
But sorry, but over the years, and I think I'll start with you, Mr. Ogunye. Over the years, every national development plan that we have had several, from the days of Abacha, Vision 2020 and all of that, until the present. Every development plan usually expires with the next government. How do we create one that can succeed or survive subsequent governments?
Well, you know, it's good that you're mentioning the issue of national development plan. In the past, it used to be 5-year rolling plan, even from the time of the military, Second Republic and all that. But subsequently, I think that we've had governments that are a little bit very selfish about what they want to achieve, if indeed they want to achieve much. They come to government, they design one highfalutin program, make pronouncements here and there, and they do not expect seriously that that program will go beyond the administration. That's not supposed to be so. At the base, we must have a national creed. We must have some kind of national consensus, some kind of national goal that I want to pursue. There are some countries, and I don't like referring to the global north for examples, but there are some countries in the world that, regardless of the party that comes to power, you know, their goal is constant. Their vision as a country or a people is the same. If you study American foreign policy very well, until recently when Trump came on the scene, you know, we more or less functioning as a thorn in the rows of American democracy. The foreign policy direction of the United States is more or less the same. Whether it's Democrat that is a president or a Republican, they will go to war they want to go to war with. Their position in the Middle East is the same. You know, Arab world the same. Latin America the same. You know, their position against Cuba the same for years and years, regardless of each party was in the saddle or was in power. So, in Nigeria, we need to agree on certain things. The Constitution, and I'm referring to Chapter 2, has something like that. It is called Fundamental Objectives and Direct Principles of State Policy. They're there: education objective, political objective, economic objective. Beautiful provisions. So even if all that we will agree on is to say, let's see how government after government will concentrate on this. and implement this, we won't have much problem. But you see, government come into power and they hardly look at what the protocols are, what is at least in the Constitution as fundamental objectives and directive principle of state policy, to see how far they can do that. Well, Prof mentioned something about health. When the fundamental objectives and directive principle of state policy talk about equality, talk about opportunity to all, talk about ensuring that the wealth of the country is not concentrated in the hands of a few against the interests of the many. All these things are there. So if you take that into consideration, how will government, for example, allow a situation in which Nigerians who are afflicted with cancer, kidney problem, will have to become beggars because they can't get enough money. They don't have savings to do dialysis or to undergo chemotherapy and radiotherapy. That means technically they'll be sentenced to death by their own country. They can't go establish hospital. And we're talking about diseases that ruin fortune. Diseases that ruin fortune. No matter how much you may have, you can cope. That's why some diseases are taken care of by, insurance, health insurance scheme in other countries. So we don't have that. And so even our best, our elites, then go out to die out there. In a year, in 2030, I can't forget that period. What is the starting period? Just period of 2 months. Ojukwu was brought in from England. Umbu was brought in from England. Aluko was brought in from England, dead. And Ekweme brought in from England. Have you seen any American coming to Nigeria to seek healing? Perhaps maybe we'll go to Oyo for traditional healing through Ifa or something like that. But other than that, he's not going to do that kind of thing. Because the idea of health restoration presupposes, indeed requires and demands, that the healthcare delivery system must be such that just near you, proximate to you, it is there. You don't have to hire an air ambulance to go to India to go and die now. So once we have these goals, and I'm saying that some of them, or most of them, are there in the Constitution already. You don't need to start talking about for Vision 2020, Vision 2050. In fact, it's become a scam. You know why? A government comes to power and says, how long am I going to stay in power? At the maximum. Maybe even if I get a rerun mandate, a second-term mandate, maybe it will be 8 years. If you then set a vision beyond the expected 10 years. So he goes and nobody holds the government accountable or the president accountable about this vision.
Doesn't that,
it's a scam.
Doesn't that point back at us, the people, Prof, that we've not demanded enough of them because they're doing that because they can?
Well, I agree with you, Chamberlain. We are too much trustful of those who temporarily hold on to power. The Nigerian people must be more questioning. We should, in fact, like one of my teachers used to say, wash with cynical acid all these people in power for their pronouncements. GT was talking about national development plans. I remember in the 60s, we had the 62 to 68 or something, the first national development plan. And you had people like Oyebode Aboyade crafting development economists who wrote development plans for the country. People like Asiodu would be angry because they were the authors of all these development programs. We depart from them and heavens don't fall. So it's Nigerian people, because of poor education, low consciousness, they ascribe their circumstances to the divine. Left hand for God. No. Leave God out of it. People in power, they have a duty to ameliorate our circumstances. So if we don't ask troublesome questions of those who are in power, then they will continue to take us for granted. And we brag that we're the world's largest black nation, we're Africa's #1 economy, all sorts of self-congratulatory statements that we make about ourselves. Now, he spoke about people dying abroad. I visited India about 5 years ago. And one of the tourists, I was in Hyderabad, and one of the tourists said, these are the hospitals where your people come to die. You know, I was scandalized. Because then, even at the High Commission, the consulate at VI, the day I went to get my visa, I found so many Nigerians carrying their files, their case files, for the visa reference. And we have Indian outfits here that do all manner of tests and recommend treatment in India. Now I hear the Indians are changing their modalities. They are constructing hospitals. They are bringing, so that you don't need to engage in ecotourism. But what do you expect? When the president of the country himself spends 50 days at a stretch in a foreign hospital. I mean, Mandela never went to a foreign hospital, even in his frail health and what have you. So what GT said about a sense of national ethos, I mean, who are we as a people? Then where do you want to take us and give us a time frame? Maybe in the next 10 years, we want to put an end to medical tourism. Power. Now, the power situation has improved somewhat, I think because the elections are on. That's what I was joking. Because we have to, power is so basic. It should be basic that you ensure that we have power supply. Last time I said there's nothing wrong in even harnessing nuclear power to ensure that Nigeria has the wherewithal for survival in the 21st century.
But given the awareness in terms of participating in elections, do you see us waking up to that stark reality to the extent that, look, we want to change some of these things and we're demonstrating it in the way we vote?
Now, I think the new politicians, the younger politicians, they have to redraw the agenda, the time to. Why are you seeking our votes? You tell us, well, in the next 5 years, you want to do this and that. You know, Abiola said, farewell to poverty. Yeah. You know, you need something, and Abiola, I was a little bit close with him during the reparation debate. And he had a game plan. He wasn't going to run, I'm talking of 1992, when he was talking about reparation for slavery, for colonialism, for all that, and which catapulted him to political. He told me he was a Fabian socialist, that he became a socialist in Glasgow when he was a student. So you need any of these young people who are exposed. They've traveled the world, and they know the state at which we are. We are complaining about INEC. It's really not the fault of INEC. It's a reflection of economic and technological underdevelopment. We are not Europe. We are not America. So we can't approximate what we see in the democratic elections in those countries, because there are certain things that the Americans or Europeans take for granted. Power is not a problem. Then the social utilities function. So you remove the areas of difficulty. Elections will naturally fall in place if you increase the technological and I would say intellectual profile of Nigerians. Nigerians, we are not different from other people. We have the same needs, okay? And we have the same intellect. Nigerians have studied all over the world. They are exposed. So you challenge them. I believe Nigerians should demand more from their rulers, because they are not governors. They are behaving like rulers. And when you look at the body language, again, to quote my friend, the GT, the body language of politicians, the sort of things they say, venal opportunism. They are self-seekers, self-servers, and self-perpetuating elite. And they are part of the problem of the Nigerian society. They don't have a game plan for social, economic, and political transformation.
All right, we'll have to anchor at that point. Oyebode is a professor of international law. Well, GT Ogunye is just warming up. He's trying to save his election consultant, so he will be here for a bit. Yes, we do know INEC, the National Coalition Center, will come back at 2:30, where more results will be expected to come in, but we've seen that of Osun and Ekiti going the way of the ruling APC. So democratic, well, at least for now, it continues. There'll be news track on the hour. But for us here, that's the verdict from us today. So we'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain. So
I'm Gemba Umar.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Enjoy the rest of your day.